Well, okay, my friends, I'm going to go to one of my old videos, but before I do that, I want to repost it because it's becoming more evident that it's just obvious. It's extremely important to hear the words that I said, even though it is it's sort of a play on words, and you'll see. But before I go there, I want to talk about this. Mr. MB333, excellent stuff. He's got all kinds of different interesting things. And he's talking about the ruins that are on Antarctica. And he's showing all of these different structures and things. And they're, really, it's wonderful he's talking about them, but they don't understand them. I do. I understand exactly what all these things are. And until you understand the mud fossils, they're just going to be confusing and you just walk around in circles. But I do understand these things. Now, what I want to make clear is that sooner or later, we've got to get a group of us together. We got to get a band of brothers or sisters and infants, I don't care who it is. Somebody's got to start to learn reality and not bow down just because they say, look, we're the experts. I don't care if it's real or not. And that's exactly what's happening now. It doesn't matter. You cannot convince me of that. They refuse to look at things that are DNA certified, CAT scan, anatomist, chemistry, specimens, over and over. And it's just so obvious now. It's a bit disgraceful. So what you want to do is go to places like this, Mr. MB333, and I'm same with my stuff. Same with all of these Veritasium. This guy's really good. Woodward TV. He's taking. We're starting to take on. We have to present our evidence. Now, a lot of people don't really have evidence. They have a lot of theories. I am a material guy. I show evidence for everything that I state. And I can say I know what these things are. And if I had specimens of these, I could tell you exactly what it was and what the material was. And most of it is what they call feldspar that coats the outside of rocks. Well, here's a goose. There's a goose's head. You see that? See the feather pattern? You see the goose? Now what happened was there was a giant flood here on Earth at some point, and everything drowned or was starved. And that's what happened with the gooses and everything. They said, oh, how would a goose die? They could float on the water and everything. Well, sooner or later they died. I don't know. It is a good question. Because, they could eat fish, they could do all kinds of stuff. Maybe most of them did live. I have no idea. This one is turned into stone. That's my understanding. I am a material scientist. Case closed. That's what this is. Now, this is what they would call feldspar. And if I look at it in a microscope, it's identical to what everything else is that they call feldspar, and it is still collagens, keratins, it's fibers and black and red and white little fibers and all kinds of different matrix. And that is what seals you away from the elements. Even feathers are like that. Skin is like that. Fascia on your organs is like that. Fascia on your tendons is like that. Everything that separates anything from anything else is made of the same stuff, and it's this, and it's the fascia fabric of life. I have bones. That's a bone. It's a mud fossil bone. Anybody who doesn't know that's a bone is a bone head. All right, you see that? If you can't tell, these are the little cartilage tips. That's the ligament attachment. This fabric here is what's called periosteum. And you see the little seam right here, that little seam coming up? Take a second and look. See if I can get it in the right light. Where they seam together is what's called tunica. And it's a fabric. It's just like a fabric of skin. And it comes and it latches together and it welds on these seams. I'm not kidding you. It's very strange. I've seen it a bazillion times. I mean, 2 bazillion times. I've been doing this a very, very, very long time. And I have specimens here that they're too hard for anybody to accept is a problem. And I tried to be gentle in the beginning, and I said, "Oh, I'm just going to let it go," because they wouldn't talk, just absolutely wouldn't talk. And I started out with like I started out trying to be gentle, like a lung. That's a lung. Anybody could see that. Anybody could tell that's a lung. Solid rock now, and it's in flawless condition, absolutely flawless. This is also that fabric I talk about. They call that feldspar. It's not feldspar. And that there is, it's fascia, but in the lung they call it pleura because it's a very dense, rubbery thing that's got to move a lot. In the bone, it doesn't move a lot, so it's the same stuff, but it's just a little more compacted fibers. They're not like, they don't have to stretch and do all this. This is like a woven fabric. I don't know how to explain it, but you know, this could go. It's like a rubber bag. Hold on a second. All right, now this is pretty obvious. That is a lung, and that is the lung I just showed you, and that's the fabric. This one here is devoid of all the fabric all the way down to the alveoli. This has the surrounding fabric that coats and keeps this away from the rest of your body. Now, this is what came out of this one here. All these red spots, you see these red spots? Almost every one of these had a bubble, literally a bubble of blood on it, a literal bubble. And here's those literal bubbles. You see that? You know, some of them were, this obviously was, you know, I take the best shot. And almost all of them had, well, they all had some form of redness, a real good serious amount of redness when it first came out of the ground. Now, this part here, well, you can see the alveoli and all that. It was apparently laying like this. This came out, I'm sure it was in the mud. I can't remember. This was long ago. But it's still sitting here. Both of them, they're all sitting here. That was DNA certified. CAT scan, anatomist, and anybody, at first year, the guy who walks in the door to go to medical school is going to know that's a lung. Anyway, but it's still being refused to this very day. Regardless of the DNA, CAT scans, anatomist, chemistry, that's the rub with me. So I'm going to talk about, and the reason is I have giants, the same thing, DNA certified, no question whatsoever, and they are giant, and they support the Bible, which we are going to talk about right now, and that, my friends, is why we have mud ducks. Here's a little fantasy reality for you. They're going to be one and the same. Did you know that? Hello, my good friends. Very, very, very strange dream last night. I was looking, of course, at the dragon, going through the anatomy, and it has a cloaca. It doesn't have, it has an avian reproductive system, and this is the cloaca, and they're growing things in the cloaca, and when it died, it actually defecated here. Now, I have shown this, and it came right out of the cloacal flap, and you know, every creatures do that when they die. Now, so that's what that is. That's dragon poop. As it was killed. So I'm looking into this dragon, and I'm sort of, my mind is drifting, and I'm tired, and all of a sudden I fall asleep. So, next thing I know, I'm flying. I'm flying around like a duck. I said, well, how did I get to be a duck? So I'm flapping around, I look down, and I see a biblical gathering of ducks. I mean, ducks everywhere. So I said, well, that looks interesting. I'm going to go down there and check it out. So I shoot down there. And I started hanging around with the ducks. I said, what do you got ducks doing around here? And he said, well, you know, we're going to school. I said, what are you going to school for? He said, well, just basic duck school, learn how to be ducks and do duck things. I said, yeah, that's pretty cool. I said, you know, I'm a duck too, obviously you can see. And I said, well, we don't know about your duck type around here. He said, what kind of duck are you? I said, I'm a mud duck. And all of a sudden they got this look on their face, which And all of a sudden, so I said, whoa, what's going on? And they said, we know about you. I said, what do you know about me? I said, I don't even know about you. How could you know about me? So we started talking. And I said, what are they teaching you in this duck school? This was only the two most important things is ducks hate water and they won't eat worms. Don't ever eat a worm. And I said, wait, let me just tell you something. You guys go to the wrong school. That's not true. I said, ducks love water and they eat worms all the time. They like worms. Worms are pretty good for ducks. And this met with extreme flapping and festering and jumping, and feathers are flying and ducks are flapping and bills are quacking. I mean, it was going like absolutely insanity. And all of a sudden I look up way up on the edge and there's a white dove and all these ducks. I see a white dove and I say, ooh, that's interesting. What's he doing here? And then all of a sudden, in the middle of this multitude of ducks comes a wood duck. Festooned wood duck. Totally covered in colors and fabrics of... He looked bejeweled. I mean, they are fabulous looking ducks. So, he's waddling back and forth in front of me and he's got this paper and he's shaking it like this, and I said, well, what's that all about? I said, you know, what are you shaking that paper at me for? And he said, do you know what this paper is? And I said, I know, I have no clue what that paper is. And he said, this is the duck rules. He said, you are outside of the duck rules, and you are so outside, I'm going to read you what the duck rules are. First one is, as they told you, we hate water. Second one is, we will not eat worms. And the third one is we kill mud ducks. And they started coming after me. I'm waddling away as fast as I could go, and all of a sudden the white dove comes down. I'm gone. I'm out of there. I said, oh Jesus, thank you. Thank you, Jesus. I said, well, okay. And it was Jesus. Come on, grab me, pull me out of there. And I said, well, you know, wow, that was a crazy dream there, Jesus. You know, is there some kind of meaning to it? And he looked at me thoughtfully, and he said, did you understand what you were just encountered? And I sort of pondered for a second, and I said, well, I know they want to kill me, I can tell you that. And he said, well, do you understand why they wanted to kill you? And I said, well, it appears they have rules, and their rules were silly. And I was trying to tell them their rules were silly. The ducks love water. You know ducks love water. Ducks eat worms. They said they were being bullied by that fancy-looking duck. They said, exactly. And I said, well, why didn't they talk to me about it? Well, I was telling them what the right stuff was, and why wouldn't they listen? He said, don't you understand? You weren't dressed correctly. You didn't speak articulately. You were not festooned. You were not dominating. You did not strut correctly. You did not put them in their place. Now, they follow the one that has that attitude. So, I decided that I would tell you to release the final bits of information. And I said, oof, they're going to go crazy when they hear this one, Lord. And he said, well, it's time they do go crazy. He said, do you remember when I talked to you about the lady and this dragon right here? And I said, well, I do remember when you talked about the dragon and the lady. Yes, I do. Revelations 12. He said, well, let's go and look at it. I said, yes, sir. Okay, so here we are, Revelations 12. Now, here's the interpretation that I got from Jesus as to how I should understand this. And this is a King James version. I don't really deal with a whole lot of versions here. I just sort of, that's the oldest one. Let's take a look at what it says. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. Now, 12 tribes, 12 whatevers. There's a million 12s in the Bible. And she is on the moon. She's on the moon and clothed with the sun. The sun is surrounding her. She's on the moon. That's probably a pretty good-sized creature. Now, she's being with child. She being with child cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivering her child. So what would have happened? She would have had to have her break her waters. I mean, that's the way it works. And then when they have a child, there is all of the afterbirth of child delivery. There's a placenta. There is a lot of red blood, which is hydrocarbons. And there is an umbilical cord. The umbilical cord is literally a fibrous web of stones in a matrix that is flexible. It is virtually indestructible. That's why that baby doesn't get hurt and that thing doesn't get destroyed. It's a very, very, very strong substance. So what do we have if she gave birth in space? She gave birth in space. Back here, look. It says, clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet. That's space. Now, she gave birth in space. She has her waters break, which in my mind was the Great Flood. It is the same pH waters, apparently, that were salty enough to preserve the flesh to turn them into mud fossils after they all drowned. Now, and then, of course, the dragon comes. Here's the dragon. He shows up, and he's got 10 horns and 7 crowns, and he's trying to get the baby to eat him. Now, his tail drew the third of the stars of the heaven and cast them to earth. I am finding dragons all over the earth. These were his guys. These were dragon guys. These were dragon guys. He threw them all over the earth. A third of the stars of the heaven. Supposedly there was 600 watchers. A third is 200. They were the fallen angels. There was 200 of them. It just says this. And he threw them all to earth. So there's 200 dragons laying around somewhere, is what I'm saying. And stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered. And he tried to devour the child, to try to eat the baby. And you go back through history, and it's Kronos, and a whole batch of them ate their children. Now, I don't know if that has anything to do with anything. But I go back to the Titans and to the pre-Christian era, because that's how it all started, just like it says. You go back into Pistis Sophia, she stole the power. Now, so she brought forth a man-child. She had the baby. It was a man-child. I don't know what that means to you. He was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. Right? First time, they did some nasty, nasty things to, I think, this man-child. But in the end, he will rule all nations with a rod of iron this time. There's no more nails and crosses. And her child was caught up unto God into his throne. The woman fled into the wilderness. She had a place prepared for God, and fed her there 1,260 days. Then they had war in the heavens. There was war in the heavens. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon and his angels fought against his angels. And there's body parts litter the heavens. I'm going to tell you that right now. That is a fact. Comets are body parts. Meteorites are body parts. The moon of Saturn, Iapetus, is a tendon enthesis ball, which in your body is microscopic, and it is their moon. And the great dragon was cast out, and that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world, was cast unto the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I'm going to tell you something. This earth has been suffering from violence and war and pestilence and plague and every manner of festering nastiness since that time, is what I can determine. Prior to that, there was a golden age, there was a silver age. We're in the nastiest of times it was ever made, and it's going to roll them up, is what they say. Jesus hasn't told me these all the little details yet, but I think he's up there sharpening up the swords right now. And then I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come the salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. And I'm telling you, when it comes, you're going to see it. I know, I can tell, I can feel it. So, woe to the inhabitants of earth and of the sea, for the devil has come down unto you. And that's been a problem throughout history. I'm going to let you read this yourself. But it's time to come away from the joking. This is serious stuff. Get a little deep in this, and I can support every single word that I say with passages and absolute material evidence. I'm going to be working from some of Velikovsky's work, which he went back to the ancient papyruses and texts and museums and all of the true ancient history of this, and not just in the Middle East and Asia and Europe. He went through everywhere in the world, South America, the Americas, everywhere. They all had a very, very similar story. And it was upheaval. Upheaval when the Israelites left Egypt. And it may have been that they didn't leave as a result of being let go. They might have left as a result of so much chaos in Egypt after these biblical events. The earth shook. The earth stood still. The earth changed and did this and did that. And Velikovsky has the evidence and the records, and it shows that Venus was literally only born 3,500 years ago. And that's when all this stuff started. This is when they were allowed to leave the confinements of Egypt. And when they did, manna fell from heaven. And all of these other events happened. The red blood fell. The stones fell. That's the placenta. The red blood is the afterbirth blood. The placenta itself is the manna. The umbilical cord is the stones. These are the things that break down. I understand this chemistry extremely well. And Velikovsky recorded every one of those events. And then he said that Venus passed very close to Earth, caused all kind of catastrophe. And this I found absolutely stunning. This picture here is by a guy called James Tissot. And if you see these red hills in the background, this is the texture of flesh. This is the texture of the blood. And I mean, I know this so well. Now, how would he know to put this in here? Because these would have been the colors of these hills in those days. Now, guess where he lived? He inherited an abbey from his father. And he is a fabulous artist. You should see the things he's done. Look him up. He's unbelievable. Now, this is where they're gathering the manna, and it's just, and they said there was tons and tons of it every day. And the only way they could get it was first thing in the morning. It would come out of the sky, and it would come only at night because it would burn up during the day with all the extra electrical activity of the sun as it came through. So it just would vaporize. But at night it would come through and land as these little particles. And let's go look at the story of this. This all happened during this 40-year period following the Exodus, prior to the conquest of Canaan. Now, when they left, I won't go through all of these, but most people know about manna fell from heaven. That's how they survived. And this was the kind of stuff they're saying is similar to this look. Now, I can go along with that, but when that melts in, it wouldn't have been this color. I don't think it would have been more whitish, because they did say it was more white, but it would be this gooey substance in little balls like that, coming through, particulating as it vaporized, coming through the atmosphere, and it would turn into little floaty things, like they'd come down in like popcorn almost. Now, when they put this in water, it turned to milk. When it melted in the sun, it turned to honey. Now, they say it was some frost on the leaves. That's silly. Now, it came down, they said, according to the book of Exodus, manna is like a coriander seed in size, but which is white. See, I told you. This explains by ancient commentaries comparison to round shape So it was round, but it was white. That is the milk from the placenta. There's no other reason. You could come up with another reason. I'd love to hear it. Now they're coming in with some kind of honeydew balls or something. I have no idea what that's about. And then they're showing other things here. But this guy was a fabulous artist. See, you're saying they're coming down to him from heaven. That was Jesus' body. And later he said, that was my body that fed you guys in the desert. I'm not kidding you. All right, Jesus said he was the bread that came down from heaven. He says, for it is my Father's will that everyone who looks to the Son and believes in him shall have eternal life. That is what I am looking for here, my friends. And I will raise him up at the last day. At this, the Jews began to grumble about Jesus because he had said, I am the bread that came down from heaven. And then they keep arguing. This is usually they came down from heaven. They were asking, is this not Jesus, the son of Joseph, whose father and mother we know? How can they say he came down from heaven? So I'm saying he came down from heaven. I believe him. All right, I'm not going to make any claim on this, but there is statements about, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, something like that. You know, these places, they were walking through these things. You see, there's people down there. This is not some little crack in the ground. These were huge passageways that they had their arm. You know, the Israelites they knew these places, and they were hiding through there. And as the stones came down, which they did, and killed all the armies up above, they were down here in the shadow, in a valley, you know, in the shadow of death. I don't know. That's just a thought. But there's so much can be spoken about. And you can see this is muscle right here. And this actual armor, the treasury here, I've looked at inside of this. And inside, I mean, this is all muscle. It's just one big chunk of bloody muscle. And that bloody muscle is just carved into. And when you go inside the treasury, there's walls in the treasury that are blood, and they had to drill holes to where the arteries were. Because normally, if an artery comes straight out, it'll run out by itself. But if it's going sort of down the wall, you have to drill holes into it to let it drain out. And they did that. And you can see it's very, very obvious that this was gigantic creatures. All of these things they were talking about seem to have happened. Enoch's descriptions of these things being over 3,000 ells tall is very, very, very obviously true. And if all this stuff is true, I'm going with the result is that you better do what you're supposed to or you're not going to get to heaven. And again, I have no horse in your race. So you could do whatever you want, but I'm just pointing out the facts because they have been hidden from you, my friend. All right, that's all I got to say, I suppose. Mudfossil University, well, let me put it this way. There is some other stuff I have to say. I'm probably going to be taking a little bit of a break on this, you know, a little vacation, so to speak. But I'll be sort of checking in here and there. I don't know, maybe I'll be just doing what I'm doing. I'm sort of in flux right now. I got some things rolling around in my mind, let me put it that way. But anyway, the thing I do want to say is I have so many videos up there. I have over 600 videos now, and everybody's been so kind and nice and saying thank you and oh, this is great, I love it, and that's fabulous. I love to see that, no question whatsoever. I don't really have time to respond anymore. I really don't, and it's not against anybody or. And the other thing is I have to make a statement. Well, first of all, on that first part. If I respond to anybody, I'm really going to have to respond to everybody, so I'm sort of staying away from responding. So don't think it has anything to do with you. Now, I do love to see the very important things because I get a lot of information from you, so I'm going to be reading them, but, you know, it's just not fair to pick and choose, you know. But I may ask for some more information if you truly do have valid information. But what I want you to do is present it to me so I can inspect it. And then I will get back to you. All right, somehow present it to me or give me an email address. But I can't investigate every one of them because I just get so many of them, and I really just love all you people. But I'm overwhelmed. I got to be honest with you. I'm like that duck in the middle of the sea of ducks, and I can't find my way out. You know, I started something that is. should be taken off on its own by now. And I would hope that you'd be mentioning this to people that you love. And you have to stand your ground. You have to say it, and because you can see it's true. It's not a lie. And if you don't say it, nobody hears it. Nobody hears it. You're going to be alone, eating ice cream by yourself, and they're going to be screaming. It's the way I'm seeing it. Nobody knew. Nobody knew this. It's not something that you had this information and you made a mistake, that you couldn't possibly ever imagine this. And nobody did. It was just a random accident that it's been uncovered. But I don't think it's a random accident. I think it's an accident that was set away long ago to occur at this time. It just happens that we are involved in it. And it is our time. And that means it's your time, so it's time.